What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to be doing my second mock draft of the offseason, the Entertainah mock draft 2.0. I'll probably have two more first-round mock drafts up. One maybe with trades in about 2 weeks, and then one final one maybe 4 or 5 days before the draft, giving you guys my final opinions based off some of the rumors that I may be hearing. I usually do one after the Combine. That didn't take place this year, and I always do one after free agency because that's when you get more answers. That's when you get more clarity. So we're going to jump into the mock draft in 1 second. Before I get started, made another addition to the channel. Let me know what you guys think. Tried to improve the lighting for you guys. It might be a little bit too light. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe it makes me look younger. I don't know. But we're going to jump right into this mock draft, and the first pick on the board is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm not even going to waste your time. I'm not even going to build up any, suspense. Trevor Lawrence will absolutely be a Jacksonville Jaguar. I don't care if you have to bet $1,000 to win $1. Win $1. Take $1. He is going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. That is a lock. Urban Meyer didn't take this job not to have Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has been the most talked about quarterback draft prospect since Andrew Luck. He's tall. He's mobile. He's got an arm. He's got great hair. What more do you want? He's been a great producer at Clemson, and he's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. Next up, New York Jets. Again, I'm not wasting your time. I took the same quarterback in my first mock draft. I'm taking the same one here. Zach Wilson out of BYU really impressed me. And I know I've heard the rumors about Sam Darnold, but now word came out today, I think it was, that they're willing to trade him for less than a first-round pick. Darnold will not be staying there. If he was going to stay there, I think they'd take Penei Sewell here. Don't expect it. I think they go with a quarterback. I think they go with Zach Wilson. The best word when people bring up Zach Wilson to me that I always say to describe him in one word, smooth. This guy is smooth. This guy is confident. He looks like an advanced quarterback at BYU, and I'm really impressed. I think he'll fit what the New York Jets are looking to do there at number 2 overall. Give me Wilson to the Jets. Next up, the 49ers. They were originally picking at number 12 overall. They moved all the way up to 3. You don't move up to 3 not to take a quarterback. Now, word has come out that they're looking to possibly keep Garoppolo for another year, and who knows? That could just be speculation. They're absolutely taking a quarterback, but if they are going to keep Garoppolo, if there is truth to those rumors, the quarterback makes the most sense here, regardless, for me, no matter what the situation is, but especially if you plan to keep Garoppolo and maybe you have the quarterback sit and learn for a year or at least a half season. Trey Lance. Trey Lance, to me, is a quarterback with so much upside in this year's draft. The guy is special. Kind of reminds me a bit of Josh Allen. He's got a cannon. He's mobile. He's tall. But he needs a little bit more seasoning. Didn't play this year. Went to a small school. I could absolutely see this being a great fit in the Kyle Shanahan offense. Shanahan, maybe the best offensive mind in football. He's up there. And you bring in a quarterback with the talent and upside of a Trey Lance, he could be your quarterback for the next 15 years. Love this pick for the 49ers, and I think that's why they gave up as much draft capital as they did. Atlanta Falcons. I was going to trade out, but decided not to make trades in this mock draft. I was going to trade out to 9 with the Broncos, have the Broncos come up and get Justin Fields. Instead, I stuck with the Falcons taking a quarterback. But in the end, I could absolutely see the Falcons trading out of this. I could absolutely see the Falcons taking Penei Sewell if they stay. There's a lot of ways that they could go here. But the fact of the matter is, even though that you change that contract up a little bit in terms of backloading it for Ryan to try to fit under the budget this year and maybe sign some free agents, he's 36 years old. The writing's on the wall. The Falcons are going to have to rebuild sooner than later. You have an opportunity to take a potential franchise quarterback here. I think they'll do it if they stay at 4, and I think they'll take Justin Fields. Regardless, I think Fields will be the 4th pick, whether it's the Falcons or whether it's somebody else. Cincinnati Bengals, number 5. There's been rumors that the Bengals may elect to pair Joe Burrow up and Jamar Chase up again, obviously former LSU teammates. Chase caught 20 touchdowns when Burrow was his quarterback just 2 years ago and was a major reason why Burrow went first overall. But all that being said, you got to protect the king. You got to protect the quarterback. You got to do it. And you have the ability here to take Penei Sewell, who is one of the most talked about tackle prospects in quite some time. Guy got Heisman votes 2 years ago, well at Oregon. He has the potential to be the best tackle in football. Bengals ain't passing it up. I don't care if they took Jonah Williams 2 years ago. Next up, Miami Dolphins. Dolphins made 2 brilliant trades yesterday. Ultimately, they ended up moving down from 3 to 6, and they picked up an additional 1st and an additional 3rd round pick. And they're still more than likely going to get the same player at 6 that they would have gotten at 3. I think they're looking to improve the game. Here's what it is. Whoever Cincinnati doesn't take, they're going to take, in my opinion. So if Cincinnati goes Penei Sewell, I think the Dolphins go Jamar Chase. And you're helping out Tua as much as you possibly can. If they take Jamar Chase, maybe they go Penei Sewell. Who knows? But regardless, you're helping out Tua one way or the other. They could go Slater here. Maybe they go with a different wide receiver like Devontae Smith. I got him going Jamar Chase. Next up, number 7 overall, you've got the Detroit Lions, and they're not going tight end. I think they're going weapon here, but they drafted T.J. Hockenson in the top 10 picks 2 years ago, coming off a Pro Bowl season. I don't think they go tight end here. They obviously brought in a new quarterback. They lost 2 wide receivers. I think they need a receiver. They could absolutely go linebacker here as well with Micah Parsons. Didn't do that. Elected to go with the wide receiver position. Same receiver I had them taken in the last mock draft. Now you're starting to see Waddle creep up a bit. You're starting to see Devontae Smith fall down a bit. But when I did it, 6 weeks ago, it was the opposite. Now Smith is starting to fall down. I had the same receiver going to the Lions 6 weeks ago. I still got it. Jalen Waddle, to me, is an all-around wide receiver. Some people look at him as a slot. I disagree. This guy's 5'10". He could run the routes. He could go up and get it. He's a burner. He's a threat. He's a big-time wide receiver, in my opinion, if he could stay healthy. Detroit gets themselves a good one at number 7. Number 8 overall, Carolina Panthers. If one of the top 4 quarterbacks are there, they're taking him. If one of the top 4 quarterbacks are there, they're taking him. But in this case, they're not. I've read reports that they're not interested in Mac Jones as a first-round prospect. Who knows? Could be a lie. Might be, might not be. I am not going to have them going quarterback with 4 quarterbacks off the board, in which case I'm going to have them taking who many feel is the best weapon in this situation. And that is the tight end that a lot of Giants fans are drooling over, Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the complete package in terms of a receiver. I mean, he impressed at his pro day. He ran, I think, in the high 4.4s. Many thought he'd run in the high 4.6s. Of course, it's a pro day. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle, maybe 4.5s, mid 4.5s. But regardless, the guy is a really good athlete. He's 6'6". He's a threat in the red zone. He's a mismatch nightmare. And Carolina obviously lost Curtis Samuel. They could use another weapon. They get it here. This would be a great weapon add if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. Of course, you still have a problem there with Teddy Bridgewater. He's not going to be your long-term answer. Denver Broncos. I initially had them taking, I think, Caleb Farley in my last mock draft. Now, Caleb Farley has an injury to his back. In addition to that, the Broncos brought in Fuller from the Chicago Bears at the cornerback spot. So with all that being said, I'm not going to have them going corner. Unfortunately, Giants fans, I know a lot of you guys want him. I think he's by far the best player on the board. And I know there's character concerns, but Micah Parsons, to me, is a freak. He could be the man in the middle there for a decade. Really good linebacker prospect, incredibly versatile. I think Denver will take him here in this spot, unless there's a quarterback still on the board that they feel like is worth taking. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys. Hate mocking for this team. Hate it. But the Dallas Cowboys, to me, there's one of 2 options here. You're either going with Slater or you're either going with Surtain. I don't think there's any other option. Maybe you could argue Farley if you like him better, but the injury concern, I think, scares them off a bit. You could argue J.C. Horn, a very underrated corner prospect who may be the first one off the board. Very impressive out of South Carolina. I'm going to have them take it Patrick Surtain, who's a guy if the New York Giants did not take Adoree Jackson and was there at 11, I could have seen the New York Giants drafting. Really, really good corner prospect. Not the fastest. He's 6'2", though. He has experience in both man press and zone. He's a really good pick, and they need help in that secondary. Next up, the New York Giants. And for me, it was one of 2 players here. And I was going back and forth. And no matter what I do, you guys are going to be upset at me. Now, I'll get the edge rusher out of the way. I'm not going edge rusher here. A lot of people seem to think the New York Giants will go edge rusher here. Greg Rousseau, I've seen. Some of my subscribers have said Olajari, Phillips. Like some people seem to think Kwity Paye. Some people think they could be going to edge rusher. I'm not going to do that. Not to say that they couldn't use one. They definitely could. They did address edge rusher a bit in free agency in terms of situational pass rushers, but nobody, significant. However, the other thing that they did not really address in free agency in terms of an impact starter is the offensive line, and they lost their best offensive lineman from last year. Let's not forget that. And I know a lot of fans want the big splash play, and for here, it's between Devontae Smith for me, and it's between Rashawn Slater. In the end, I ended up going with the bigger need. I think that need matched BPA here. If he's not the best available, he's the second or third best available. And I think it just matches here. They need to continue to build that offensive line. You can have all the weapons in the world. If you can't block, Saquon Barkley ain't getting holes. And if Saquon Barkley ain't getting holes, then it's going to be hard for Kenny Golladay to get open. The New York Giants continue to bring in hog mollies, as Dave Gettleman likes to say, as they bring in Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. Another thing I want to tack on there, Slater obviously very intelligent. He went to Northwestern, one of the best schools in the country. What does Joe Judge look for? Very smart players, teachable players. Rashawn Slater, New York Giants, great fit. Next up, number 12, we're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I thought about taking Smith to block up from the Eagles. I know some Giants fans aren't going to want to see this. I think the Eagles are in rebuild mode. I don't even necessarily think Devontae Smith is the best pick for them. Still, they traded down. They got more future assets, but they've been linked to wide receivers along the process throughout the offseason. And Devontae Smith, former Heisman winner, guy with a ton of talent, had 1,700 yards. He will be a Philadelphia Eagle. They're going to help out their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Next up, number 13, one of the easier teams to mock for, in my opinion. The offensive line is in shambles. in LA. You got a second-year quarterback in Justin Herbert. Again, you need to be able to protect your quarterback. It's like a Ferrari. What good is he without car insurance? You need your car insurance. Go out there, get yourself a really versatile lineman in Elijah Vera Tucker. Some feel he can play on the tackle. Some feel he can play on the guard. Regardless, he's beefing up your offensive line. I think he's the best available offensive lineman on the board. The Chargers get themselves a good one in Vera Tucker. Next up, number 14. This is a tough team for me to mock for, and I'll be the first to say I'm not a Vikings fan, so maybe you guys will disagree with the pick. But Vikings, they could use a wide receiver, and Bateman would be a hometown kid. I could see it. Went to the University of Minnesota. Didn't go that route. They could definitely use an edge rusher. They could use some help on that defense. They did draft a lot of good young players last year with the picks that they had off the Stephon Diggs trade. But in the end, I'm going to go with old reliable for the Minnesota Vikings. Almost every year I have them drafting an offensive lineman. I still think they need help there. And Christian Darrisaw is still on the board. Give me Darrisaw to the Vikings. Really good tackle prospect out of Tech. And can play some guard as well from what I've heard. Next up, the New England Patriots. New England Patriots are a very tough team to mock for this year because I don't know what they're thinking here because they were super aggressive. I'm not used to that from the New England Patriots. They literally, I thought I was watching Oprah. Everybody got a car. They went out there. They spent a boatload of money this offseason in free agency to fill in a ton of holes, to beef up that offense, to get themselves 2 tight ends. They also got Nelson Aguilar in probably the worst contract in free agency, in my opinion. They paid him a ton of money for a guy that was coming off a one good season. But regardless, they were very active in free agency, which tells me win now. But they need a quarterback. You can't ignore that much longer. Maybe they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. And if that happens, that changes everything. But if they don't acquire Garoppolo, if they don't acquire a guy like Sam Darnold, you got Newton. But is Newton a long-term answer? I don't think so. You got a quarterback here staring you right in the eye. Mac Jones had a fantastic year for Alabama last year. I think he had the highest QB rating in college history. Mac Jones to New England makes sense. I like the fit. And there he is right there. I forgot to pull up the picture. He's kind of got a dad bod. Next up, at number 16 overall, we've got the Arizona Cardinals, and everything that I've read about the Arizona Cardinals is they need corner help. They need corner help. And, here you got Farley, you got J.C. Horn. I had J.C. Horn in the last mock because I had Farley off the board. With Farley's injury history, and J.C. Horn had a great pro day, I think they go J.C. Horn ultimately out of South Carolina. He's tall. He's physical. A lot of people could definitely say that he may even be the best corner in this year's draft. He's definitely short up mock drafts. J.C. Horn to the Arizona Cardinals, it's their biggest need, and I think he may even be one of the best available players at this point in time. Number 17, the Oakland Raiders, and the Raiders could go edge here, but the Raiders lost basically their whole line. They lost 3 offensive linemen, and that was a strength of theirs. I think they have to address it, and I'm going to have them going out there. I'm going to have them getting Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. He's sort of mock draft charts. He's definitely going to be a first-round tackle if you listen to most people. And again, they need to help the offensive line. It may be a boring pick, Raiders fans, but last year you went out there, you drafted like 3 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds or whatever it was. You need to be able to block in this league for your quarterback. Give me Tevin Jenkins to the Las Vegas Raiders. Next up, the Miami Dolphins with their second selection. With their first selection, I had them going wide receiver after they traded down to number 6 overall. Here, they could go a lot of ways. They could get another weapon. They could get a running back to help out Tua even a little bit more. They could get an offensive lineman to help out Tua a bit more. But everything I've read, and there's wide receiver depth later in this draft if you want to add another receiver or weapon, they need help in terms of the edge rusher position. A lot of people feel like Kwity Paye is the best edge rusher in this year's class out of Michigan. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, I think the guy's name was Gary Rashawn Gary, who ended up going to the Green Bay Packers. He's versatile. He can play on the inside and out. Tremendous upside. Like this pick here for the Detroit Lions. Next up, at number 19 overall, you got the Washington football team. Another team that I hate mocking for. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they're in our division. But all kidding aside, the Washington football team, again, a team you go a lot of ways, but I look at that team, me personally, maybe Washington fans disagree with me, I think they need to improve the offensive line. I think you got solid weapons now. You went out there, you added Curtis Samuel, you got Scary Terry, you got a nice second-year running back coming back. Even your tight end played pretty well. You brought in Fitzpatrick. I don't know if he's the long-term answer. There's not really a quarterback here to be drafted now that Mac Jones is off the board. Your defense is stout. Got to help that offensive line. You got to protect your quarterback. And it's definitely a good long-term pick for whichever quarterback, inevitably will replace Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, I'm going to have Washington going offensive line here with Sam Cosmi out of Texas. Another guy, I've seen him being mocked in the mid to late first round, sometimes squeezing into the second round. but I think it's a good pick for Washington. I think they need to buff up that offensive line. Next up, at number 20, this is another team that could go offensive line. This is a team with a lot of holes. They really have some holes here. They brought in a new quarterback. They did lose a corner, though. They definitely lost Fuller, and I think they could use some more help at that cornerback spot. Here, he's kind of fallen due to the concerns. I can't have him falling much further. I think Caleb Farley could easily be the best corner in this year's draft. He's fast. He's tall. He can play man press. They lost the corner. I don't know. I like it. I think he's too good here. Chicago. Give me Caleb Farley to Chicago out of Tech. Next up, number 21, I've got the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts could absolutely go offensive line here. They lost their tackle. Could definitely see that. They got a good offensive line, but they need to replace some parts. So I almost did that here. Instead, I elected to go edge rusher. From what I've read, they need some help at that department. Greg Rousseau's still on the board, a guy with a lot of upside out of Miami. People say he needs to work on some things, but I think it's a good fit for Indianapolis, who could use an edge rusher there at number 21. Next up, at number 22, I think I had them going edge before free agency, and this is still a team that I could easily see going edge. Easily. They did lose a wide receiver in Corey Davis, though. And there's a wide receiver that's kind of dropped a little bit. Most people probably have him going a bit higher. I think they're waiting too long here. I think they got to do it. Tennessee's going to replace Corey Davis with Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. Another guy that really impressed at his pro day. He's 6'2", good route runner, and he'd be a really good weapon opposite A.J. Brown. So I like this fit here for the Tennessee Titans. Next up, at number 23 overall, the Jets are back on the board. And, you know, they got a quarterback now, and they've kind of really spent a lot on that offensive line, especially last year. They could definitely go offensive line still to continue to try to bulk it up. They could use a guard here. Wyatt Davis is a possibility, maybe. But I didn't do that. I ended up going with Travis Etienne. I think that's how it's pronounced. Out of Clemson. You watch this guy. This guy is versatile. He's a dynamic playmaker. He adds something to your offense. You obviously went out there. You brought in a couple of free agency wide receivers via free agency, Corey Davis being one of them. And now you add Etienne to the backfield as a big-time weapon, probably what you envision Le'Veon Bell could be. Well, now you got a rookie coming in. You have a better offensive line than when Bell came in, and he should be able to help out your football team. So that is going to be the first running back off the board for me to the New York Jets. Next up, at number 24 overall, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everything I read about the Steelers, line. I've seen center, I've seen guard, I've seen tackle. They need help on line. That's what everybody says, and I listened. I went line. Alex Leatherwood, out of Alabama. Leatherwood, again, and a guy that's going in the back end of the first, early second. Got him here going to Pittsburgh. I just think that they need a lineman, and he's one of the better ones on the board. So I got him going to Pittsburgh. They could reach here, though. I wouldn't be shocked if they reach there and go with a center. Next up, at number 25 overall, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. They went out there. They brought in their quarterback. Now they're going to help him out with a weapon. And another guy that impressed so much at his pro day. This guy is a little squirt. This guy can move. He's 5'7", I think 5'8". He's small, but he is fast. He is strong. He's got a great vertical jump. And when he's in the open field, he performs like a running back. I mean, this guy makes plays happen. I'm a huge fan of Rondale Moore. The only question you have here is injuries. The guy's had injuries over the last 2 years in college at Purdue, but he's a dynamic playmaker that's going to help out your young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence into what is already a decent receiving core. But I like this pickup here for the Jaguars. Next up, the Cleveland Browns. And again, all I'm reading with the Browns, they need an edge rusher opposite Garrett. I'm a big fan of Jalen Phillips. Again, you worry about injuries, but that's why he's going as late as he is here in this mock draft and several other mock drafts. I think he's had concussion problems. But Jalen Phillips, a lot of people feel like is the better of the two out of Miami. Of course, Rousseau didn't play this year. Phillips did. He had a good year. And now you're going to have him performing opposite of Myles Garrett. That's dynamic there. That's a good fit for him. And I'm going to have the Cleveland Browns getting an edge rusher. Next up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens. And to me, Baltimore Ravens, I say it every year, they need a wide receiver. They just do. You got to help out Lamar Jackson. And the one thing I think about with Lamar Jackson, and I know they got Hollywood Brown, I know they got Mark Andrews, but the one thing I think about with Lamar Jackson, he's a red zone quarterback. This guy operates very well in the red zone, right? I remember last year, he had like almost all his touchdowns came in the red zone. It was ridiculous. What do you need in a red zone? You need a tall threat. You need a guy that could go up and catch the 50-50 ball. You need a wide receiver. That's why I got them taking Terrace Marshall out of LSU. He's 6'4". This guy could go up there and be the big play threat that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens desperately need out of LSU. Next up, at number 28 overall, it's the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints, They go a lot of ways here. They could add a wide receiver. They could definitely add a playmaker there. I didn't do that. I had them going with the high upside linebacker out of Notre Dame. The one thing I worry about here is the guy's weight. I think he's 205 pounds, but he is blazing fast. And he's definitely a guy that if he packs on some more muscle, could be dynamic in the NFL. The Saints need some help there in that area of the field on defense. I think Owusu Karamoah out of Notre Dame will help them do that. So I like this fit. Next up, at number 29, the one thing I think about with the Packers outside of wide receiver, which they never do in the first round, but the one thing I think about with the Packers outside of that is run defense. Their run defense over the last 2 or 3 years has been abysmal. It's a big reason why they've lost in the playoffs. Teams have been able to chew down the clock late in games. They need a run stopper. They need a middle linebacker. They're going to get Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. 6'4", 260 pounds. The linebacker prospect out of Tulsa. I think it's a really good fit for them, and I think it's one of their primary needs. Next up, at number 30, you got the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills, you know, they had a nice little pickup there with Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, they still got Stephon Diggs, but the tight end to me, I think the tight ends, if I read it properly, they were like the 4th worst in terms of yards per catch last year. I think they could use a playmaker at that spot. And you got baby Gronk sitting there, and he was the guy I had mocked to them last time around. I'm going to do it again. Pat Freiermuth out of Penn State goes to Buffalo as they continue to help out Josh Allen, who took a big step up last year. They already have a pretty sound defense. I like this pick. They could go O-line as well. Next up, at number 31 overall, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. If you watch the Super Bowl, you know what they need. I mean, Pat Mahomes got eaten alive. They couldn't block to save their lives. They cut both their tackles. Yes, they brought in another offensive lineman, but I think they're going offensive line here. I think they're going with Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan. He's ranked like the 6th or 7th best tackle prospect in this year's draft class. I just think they need an offensive lineman. I think it makes too much sense there to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then finally, the last team up on the clock, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people seem to think they could use another edge rusher opposite Shaq Barrett. They don't have a lot of needs. They brought everybody back. But and there's a couple of edge rushers I could have went with. In the end, I went with Azeez Ojulari. I think that's how it's pronounced, out of Georgia. When you watch this guy, he's fast, very high upside, high motor, would really fit that defense well. So, in the end, that's what I ended up with, man. That was my first round mock draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know not every Giant fan is going to be ecstatic with the pick, but I think it's the right pick there. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.